The Yosemite decimal system is a way that we can put a label on the difficulty of rock climbs. There's class 3 and class 4 climbs, and those are where you don't really, most people don't need a rope to ascend them. These might be hikes and mountain scrambles. And then once you get to a grade system of 5, there's a breakdown of difficulty beyond that. So the decimal in Yosemite decimal is that there's 5, then a decimal point, and then a number. So it starts at 5-0 and goes all the way up to today 5-15. Once you get to 510, there's some gradations of 510A, 510B, 510C, 510D, which also just gives more granularity. Beta is information about how to do a move on a climb. And in fact, a friend of mine, Frank Minuti, who was one of the early climbers or climbers back in the 80s in the gunks, he told me that he believes that originated in the gunks, and beta actually came from the term Betamax, which was a kind of video recording back in those days. A belay is the person who has the other end of the rope when a climber is climbing. The other person, the belayer, has the rope passing through a device which will stop the climber in case the climber were to fall. And so the belayer is responsible for operating that device and making sure the climber doesn't fall very far. A bolt is typically it's steel, sometimes it's titanium, and it's placed into a rock face where there's no other cracks or any other places for more traditional climbing gear to be placed in. So it's a way to protect blank faces for climbers. To sport climb means that a climb is going to be protected by bolts in the rock that you clip and then clip the rope through as you ascend. A clip is typically, the clip is actually what a carabiner does. A carabiner is a typically oval, sometimes D-shaped, sometimes a little slightly different shaped piece of equipment that has, it's usually in the shape of an oval or a D, and it has a gate that the rope can go through. So you can actually clip, it's kind of the sound of it, clip the rope through the carabiner so that the rope can protect you in case of a fall. A crimp is, it's two things actually. It's a type of hold. Typically it's a small edge, small enough to put your hand in this kind of and that this kind of hand position is also called a crimp. So it's the hold that causes your hand to go in that kind of a position. Pocket is basically a hole in the rock that you put your fingers into to act as a climbing hold. Now that's if it's outdoors in rock. If it's in the climbing gym, it'll be a plastic hold that has a hole in it that you put your fingers in. An undercling is a hold that you can grab onto that you grab from underneath. A jug is a big hold, and I think that term came from, like a milk jug has the handle on a milk jug. It's a big, easy to grab hold. A dihedral is where two walls come together and forms a corner like that, and you actually can climb up the dihedral in that corner. A slab is typically a wall that's less than vertical, and where you kind of use certain techniques to ascend it. Overhang is almost the opposite of a slab. It's where instead of being like this, you actually ascend that angle of the face. And a red is almost like what would fit inside of a dihedral. It's where two rock walls come together and form an outside feature that you can climb up that edge or on either side.